G'day guys, welcome back to the Boundary Riders Podcast. Today we're up to episode 38, so about 12 more episodes until we hit the half century, pretty close now. We'll be getting into the world sport as well as some AFL news to start off with. But of course, we've joined with my brother and co-host Jack. Probably been a lot more off-season stuff going on this week. We saw the fixture basically come out just after our last podcast, and we've also had the draft, both the rookie and rookie preseason and the regular draft happened basically yesterday and today.
Yeah. It's good to see some of the young kids get their AFL dream, really.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about the draft a little bit as well, which we'll start off with now. So, obviously, the draft started on Monday, Monday, obviously, the big one, the big first round.
Yeah, wow.
Obviously, Harley Reid was the first pick.
Now, what are you talking about? That was a shock, wasn't it? According to Sam McClure, it was a big shock that West were never going to pick him.
Yeah, and I think there was one screenshot that made it when he was looking a little bit. He wasn't looking happily excited. To be honest, when I saw Harley Reid get picked up by West Coast, and most of the stuff that I've seen, he looks very happy to have been picked up by West Coast.
Yeah, he does. Like, you look like he just
was happy to be picked up.
Yeah, I think he said after he was relieved in the end that it was all over. Like, all the speculation and all that was over.
Yeah. I think that's good. I think it's really good that he's gone to West Coast for... I think as well that something really been let go is the fact that he's a country Victorian. So even if he was to stay in Victoria, it wasn't like he could go home every single day. He would have to move out no matter what. He wasn't... Even though, yes, he's moving to the other side of the country, he still wouldn't have been able to live at home. So it's not like he was... It's not like a lot of kids that we see are like... are moving like they go to their club. I think Nick Watson, who got picked up by Hawthorn, he's able to stay at home. Yeah. But it's not like Harley Reid was even going to stay at home anyway. He would have to move into the inner city. So, I think also what Harley Reid brings, which we haven't really seen a lot, which I think a lot of the draftees actually did, is a lot of personality. Yeah. We've seen a lot of personality in the guys coming through, and we saw in the draft, a lot of them were very happy. Did you see... who was it? His name was Phoenix Gothard. Yeah. He got picked up by the Giants. He got to the draft that night. He was there for Connor O'Sullivan, who actually got picked up by Geelong.
The previous pick before he got picked. Pick before.
Yeah. He was... I'm sure most of you have seen the clip by now that he was standing there talking to the Geelong list managers who just signed him. They're probably just having a few conversations. Joel Selwood was there. And as soon as he heard his best mates, Phoenix, get picked by GWS, he was absolutely thrilled. Yeah. So, I mean, I think he was more excited when his mate got called than he did.
Yeah, well, I think they said that Phoenix wasn't wearing like all his recruitment stuff. Like,
no, it wasn't.
Because how you wear, like your
you're supposed to wear like your club.
Yeah, your club shit, and he wasn't actually wearing it. He had to use his mates and.
They all just got around him. He did get the biggest cheer as well. I think because everyone else obviously who were there were basically expected to be drafted on that first night. He wasn't. But he was only there to be with Connor, and he got picked up in the very next pick. But obviously it's a bit hard to tell if these guys are going to be made AFL players. A lot of the guys that get picked on the top, it's kind of a lottery, obviously. But this group of draftees so far wasn't that big. I think there was only 64 picks. 64 picks. So there was a little bit more than what they expected. Yeah. One that I was really happy to see was Sean Manor, who was at Werribee for quite a long time. I think he's 26 now. He got picked up by Geelong at pick 36 in the draft. Obviously had a massive year for Werribee in the VFL. Like I said, he had a massive grand final in the VFL, kicked 6 goals. So Geelong did pick him up because Geelong, I think, are immune to picking players that are young. They picked up Connor O'Sullivan, but that was basically their first round pick in a very long time. I think, well, not the first one, but they don't really get a lot of them. So, but I do really happy to see that a guy, you love to see like those sort of players who have been for years been sitting in the reserve leagues trying to do their best to get picked up, and I think it's really good to see him get picked. There was a couple more picked up in the rookie draft, but he was basically the pick of the bunch. And I think after that grand final and after a great year with Werribee, I think it was kind of written in the cards that he was going to be picked up by an AFL club in the end. Yeah,
pretty much if you play in the big games, especially like a grand final, even at the second tier leagues, like if you play really well, someone will see it. Yeah. One of the recruiters will see it and they will be like, let's give him a shot. Give him a shot.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised he actually didn't slip through the rookie draft because that was a pretty high pick, 36 for a guy who's, middle of the career really, 26. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I think that actually could turn out to be something. Hopefully, he does get a couple of good AFL games early next season. Maybe he starts to rocket his career into something that, from a VFL player to an AFL player. But one person that was talked about to be a top 20 pick was Ari Schoenmaker. Now, he slipped all the way down to the end of the draft to St Kilda at pick 62. He was expected by most to be picked in the top 20. So I guess this always does kind of happen. Players do slip all the way through. This guy, was being touted as like one of the best kicks. The best kick in the draft class this year. Yeah, well, and slipped all the way to 62.
I think they said North Melbourne recruitment was saying that he's one of the best left footers ever to play.
So they stayed clear of that. They weren't having that.
They're like that guy's got talent. We're not going to take that guy.
I do think that was cool. I am a bit surprised that a guy who's been touted as one of the best kicks going into this year's draft has been spent all the way down to 62 when he was even touted to be in the top 20.
Yeah, so imagine being him anyway. He'd probably be there on the first night. Yeah, he was there. Yeah, so thinking, I'm going to be picked or whatever, and he wasn't picked until late in the whole.
In the second
draft.
Yeah, second draft. Yeah, he was the third. I think he was the third to last player being picked up in the draft.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a steal for St Kilda. They were the ones who picked him up in the end. And we've also got a couple of players picked up in the rookie draft. So there were a few players picked up. One that I will mention is Riley Bonner. Obviously, former Port Adelaide player, got delisted. He got picked up by St Kilda in the end. We've also got Emerson Jecker, who was at Hawthorn. He got picked up by Geelong. And I think there's one more. There was... Jack Marnie. Yeah. He was picked up by the Gold Coast Suns, and obviously from North Melbourne. There were a few other players picked, which we'll go through in a second, but the majority of the preseason... Oh, this is actually the preseason draft.
No, that's the...
Oh, that's the preseason. Yeah, and rookie draft as well.
Preseason and rookie draft were done.
They were done today. So Riley Bonner was a preseason pickup. The rest were rookies. And just looking at the players who were rookie/preseason draft pickups, the majority of them are just players who have been in the AFL for so many years and they've just re-rookied. So I really think they need to look at that to try and pick up some younger people or players in lower leagues to then pick up as a rookie.
Yeah, I can see like Chad Wingard was picked up again by Hawthorn. I think that's more because of injury, because he got the injury late in the season with a thing in the Achilles. But there needs to be some sort of category to say, we're not going to put him on the rookie list, but like in the NFL, they have the IR list, so they put him on IR. That's what he needs. That's the sort of thing he needs to be on that list.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it in the last podcast that the AFL were planning on bringing in a veterans list that would be able to list players like experienced players like this, like Chad Wingard, for example, on a veterans list so they don't get paid as much, but they're still on the list and don't have to be rookied, so they have spaces on their rookie list to have players from lower leagues. But through all those players, there was Chad Wingard, who was re-picked up by Hawthorn. Sam Day was picked up by the Gold Coast. Cooper Stevens was re-picked up by Hawthorn. Who else? Will Hamill was picked up by the Crows. Lockie McNeil was picked up by the Bulldogs. Sam Reid was picked up by the Swans. Jake Melksham was picked up by the Demons. Adam Kennedy was picked up by the Giants. James Borlas was picked up by the Crows. Taylor Duray was picked up by the Bulldogs. That was the last one. So basically, most of them were.
It's like the whole preseason rookie draft. If you're a player in the lower leagues, you're thinking, what's the point? If you're not picking up one night or two days at night, 1 or 2, you're not going to get picked, and it's really hard for them to.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, they got picked up. So we'll just quickly go over the players that were picked up that weren't on an AFL list. We have Rollinson, for West Coast. He was the first pick in the rookie draft, picked up from Sturt. Maley was picked up from the Northern Bullants. Clousey was picked up from Werribee as well, so 2 Werribee players picked up. Dion Jones was picked up from Joondalup. We've got Vizentini. This is not Port Adelaide's Vizentini. This is a different one. Vigo. Love the name. I'm pretty sure he's a brother. Yes, you'd think. Vigo Vizentini, that's got to be a brother.
It's got to, because
how many Vizentinis do you think are rolling around in Australia? Not many. Anyway, he is a ruckman as well. This is why I think they've got to be brothers. He's got picked up by Sandringham. We had Xavier Walsh, who was picked up by Port Adelaide. Matt Carroll, I feel like that's an AFL. We've had a Matt Carroll on the AFL list before. I feel like we've had a Carroll.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, anyway, he's from Sandringham, so maybe not. Rowlands was picked up from Norwood. And finally, we had Keenan Brown was picked up from the Oakley Chargers. So that's basically all the rookie and preseason draft news we have at this stage. Obviously, players can still be picked up as a supplement player before the season begins. I think there's been a few mentions so far. We've had the likes of Marty Hore, who's been mentioned to be re-picked up by Melbourne after being delisted from them a few years ago.
Yeah.
So he had a really good year in the VFL, so they're expecting that he could probably be picked up. There was a player as well mentioned from the VAFA that was... I can't remember who they played for. It was a purple team. That's helpful. That's just the league below the VFL, basically, like the state leagues and that. There's a league below that. He had a really good year. He's been looked at by a few of AFL clubs. But yeah, that's basically all the draft and news at the moment. So obviously we had the fixture dropped from the AFL really weirdly as it was dropped.
Yeah.
The opening round was dropped on, I think, the Wednesday, which we talked about. But then round one obviously was a bit strange. They have all dropped it. I'm sure you guys have seen the fixture by now, but we just wanted to quickly do a quick breakdown of it. So obviously in that opening round, there's 8 teams that play. They're having a round in New South Wales and in Queensland and trying to capitalise on the NRL going to Vegas. Obviously, the other 10 teams have a bye. Round 1, the official round 1, no one will have a bye. And then we've got all those teams who play the opening round are being split to be having byes in round 2, 3, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
And round 4 is obviously going to be gather round, so no one's having a bye there. But then the AFL, obviously these teams will have to have another bye. So between rounds 12 to 15, they will be split up into every team having a bye again. Now, the difficulty of the AFL fixture has had the Gold Coast having the easiest draw going into 2024, and the hardest will be the Brisbane Lions. Now, that's a bit tough on Brisbane, considering they finished second, and Collingwood have a hard draw, but they are 15th on the list. So Port Adelaide and Sydney have the experts, whoever these are, have
the so-called experts. Yeah,
the so-called experts. Maybe it was Tom Morris. We have to mention Tom.
Yeah, we have. I think that's what we've done in every podcast. Just mention him because I think he's a good journalist. I think.
Oh yeah, he's one of the best. If you've watched an episode of us before, you know we're huge fans of Tom Morris.
Yeah.
But anyway, if he made this.
But but Port Adelaide and Sydney have got a tough draw, so we're happy about that.
Yeah, we're very happy about that. Now, the reason why they've kind of said that is because of the teams who they have to play twice. So Brisbane, saying they've got the hardest, they've got the Crows, Collingwood, Gold Coast, GWS, Melbourne, and St Kilda. So the Crows and the Gold Coast are the only teams that didn't make the 8 last year. They will have twice. And both teams, well, the Gold Coast could be in some really good form considering they've got the easiest draw.
Yeah.
Having a really easy draw does really help with gaining momentum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
like, as we saw with Carlton this season and Port Adelaide to an extent.
Yeah, when obviously you have teams like West Coast twice and North Melbourne twice, you have a very good run.
Yeah.
Now, obviously with Sydney, they've got the Crows, Collingwood, Essendon, Fremantle, GWS, and the Bulldogs. So they've only got 2 from the finals. So I don't really know how they've ranked Sydney as having a harder draw. We'll have to go through it because they've only got 2 teams from the finals last year. Well, in 2023, in the Giants and Collingwood. So I guess the Crows I think they're expecting the Crows to go up. That's maybe what I'm coming from.
Yeah.
If we look at Port Adelaide, they've obviously got the Crows. They've got Carlton, Freo, Melbourne, Richmond, and St Kilda. So Port Adelaide have the 3 teams that made the finals, and obviously they have the Crows twice. But looking at the Gold Coast, they obviously have Brisbane, but they have Essendon, GWS, North, Richmond, and West Coast. So how we've kind of looked at the ladder going to next year, we've said that Richmond are probably going to struggle. Obviously having North and West Coast is a real big plus for them. I think you even told me this when we first looked at it, but at this point, with how the Gold Coast have done in the trade period in the draft, they've picked up some really good players in the draft from their academy. They didn't lose anyone in the trade period, and they've, another year into a lot of these players, and now Damien Hardwick joining them. The Gold Coast really have no excuse.
Yeah, they don't. And if they... it'd be amazing, to be honest, if they did miss the finals, I think, this season.
Yeah.
Next season.
The fact that they have the easiest draw, they have an easier draw than West Coast and North Melbourne. Now, obviously, those two can't play against each other, so it's a bit tough on them. But obviously, if the Gold Coast are being pointed to have the easiest draw, and from looking at the teams they have to play twice, they kind of do. I mean, when they have both those bottom teams, Brisbane and GWS, and I mean, GWS is kind of hard to gauge at the moment where they're going to be. Yeah. I think they could still be up there again, but, you know, Richmond as well being the... Richmond and Essendon, who I'm really not expecting to do a lot next year, they have no excuse. They've got the coach. They've been in the league for, 12, 13 years? 13, 14 years now? 13 years. Will be 13 next year, because it was in 2011 that they joined. So, they have no excuse. They've not made the finals ever in their lifespan. They've got the easiest draw. They've got the list. I mean, they've got... I don't really think there's a weakness on the Gold Coast list at the moment. Maybe a bit of... But even, you could say depth, but I mean, they won the VFL Grand Final last year. Yeah. So, well, I keep on saying last year, which is this year, but you guys know what I mean. Yeah, I can't see the Gold Coast not making finals. Now, we'll obviously be doing... We may even do a, one of those ladder predictors on the squiggle... one we did last year. Yeah. I think we'll do one of them in the next couple of weeks, so we'll go through that, a really early look at it since the draft just happened. But yeah, I think that the Gold Coast, there is, at this stage, unless we have a look at unless they get a bunch of injuries in the next couple of months before the season starts, at this day right now, they have no excuse. Yeah,
there's no excuse. They have to.
Now, looking at other teams, Hawthorn surprisingly got the 14th easiest draw, so they're the 5th hardest from finishing third to last. Yeah, really tough for them. They've got Collingwood twice, they've got Geelong twice, and they've got GWS twice, and the Crows.
Yeah,
that's really tough for Hawthorn. Now, Hawthorn as well didn't get any spotlight games on Thursday or Friday night, while North Melbourne got 2.
Yeah, well, one of them's Good Friday, which is always what they get.
Yes, but I still don't think
I don't believe they deserve that, but...
I understand they do a lot for the community throughout that time, for Good Friday and for the charities, but if you want that game to actually be a marquee game that people remember, like the games they've brought in the past few years, like the Anzac Day Eve game and things like that, they need to get a lot better, or they need to get rid of them. Because they've tried to make that a marquee game. They've given the Bulldogs a chance, which failed because the Bulldogs would just flog them. They gave Carlton a chance this year, and that was sort of a close game for a couple of quarters, but it wasn't a good game because Carlton, even though they weren't that good at that point, well, they were okay at that point of the season, but that's when they kind of went down. They didn't do that well. That wasn't that good a game, is what I'm saying. And so I think that, that's another talking point for another day, but I think it was incredibly harsh on Hawthorn that they really only got North and Richmond twice. Yeah. I mean, they didn't get West Coast. They didn't get... Yeah, I think that's really tough on them because playing the Crows twice, Collingwood, Geelong, and GWS, that seems very tough on a team that finished 16th.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't get the likes of teams that were around them like Essendon or Freo.
Yeah, I think that's really harsh. But as we saw last season with them, they did get those... they beat Collingwood last season. They beat a couple of teams that were way above them that they did beat. So you never know.
Oh, yeah, of course you can't really know at this stage, but yeah, just from on paper, it's pretty tough.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we could go through it all day, but Geelong have one of the easiest ones, which is a bit of a surprise, but also not really. Carlton, kind of in the middle range, so are GWS. The Crows have a pretty hard draw. They're on the harder end of the draws. But one thing the AFL did do, because of what happened with the Swans game in round 23, is they did give them a lot of marquee games. They obviously gave them the Thursday night game for Gather Round to start it all off. They've got a lot of Thursday and Friday night games at Adelaide Oval. One against Collingwood. I think another one against Geelong as well. So those are some big games for the Crows.
And the Crows, they do perform on those big stages. They do. When it's at home, they do perform normally. As we saw, I think they won 90% of their games at home last season. So
their problem was being flat track.
Yeah,
bullies. They were just getting flogged away. Well, not flogged, but they were getting beaten away. But just before we move on, just looking at the fixture breakdown, basically. Looking at the first 16 rounds, the games have for teams having Thursday and Friday night games, we have Carlton with the 8, so they got the most out of anyone. which is kind of surprising because they didn't make the grand final. But anyway, Brisbane and Collingwood got 7. The Crows got 6, so like we said, to try and repay the faith. Port Adelaide, Swans, and the Dogs got 5.
I think the Dogs deserved it, but we're not. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a bit surprising, but it's very surprising. But anyway, Bombers got 4, along with the Cats, the D's, and the Saints. I think you can swap the D's and the Dogs over. I think that'd be fair. Freo got 3. North Melbourne and the Tigers got 2. The Suns and the Giants got 1. Now that is, I know one of them for the Giants is the game, the Anzac Day. Eve game or something? Sorry, the Anzac Day. When is it? I can't remember. Don't worry, it doesn't matter. Anyway, the team that's got 0 are West Coast and Hawthorn.
I think Hawthorn's a bit harsh, but
and I think it's very harsh. I think it's very weird that North Melbourne got 2 while Hawthorn and West Coast got 0.
Yeah,
not so much West Coast, but I think that was kind of strange in the end. But yeah, guys, that's basically all the fixture stuff we wanted to talk about. There was one big headline that came up this week outside of the fixture and that sort of news in the AFL was breaking news on sports news, because who cares? No female AFL field umpire for the first time in 7 years. So I think Eleni, I think she's pregnant.
Yeah, I think she's gone on maternity leave.
So I think that she's not going to be there. So this is the first time in 7 years that she's not going to be listed as an umpire. I'm going to be honest.
I don't think it's a headline. I'm sorry, it's not a headline.
How is that big news when the honest story should be the AFL umpiring standard in the past 5 years for a long time has been very below par. They added 4 umpire. They added the 4th umpire in 2023, which made. I think
it made it worse.
If anything, it made it worse. I don't think it made it any better.
No.
We saw so many decisions decide games this year. Obviously, an outfield umpire to decide the Ben Keys one, but that's another issue as well. Yeah. We saw a lot of decisions being made that weren't there, and umpires not understanding the rules, which isn't exactly it is an umpiring problem, but it's also the AFL changing the umpiring rules and decisions mid-year, mid-game. Sometimes crowds having each quarter. Crowds obviously having an impact on umpiring, which I understand. Obviously, when a 50,000 crowd is yelling at you to not pay a free kick, I get that you have the thought of not paying it. But there are a lot of sports around the world where the same thing happens and the umpire just calls it. Yeah, I think the AFL umpiring department has been a joke for at least the last 2 years. But I think it's been more, but we'll give them 2 years. And for the headline of the year for the umpiring department to be a woman's not on there, I don't care if she's man, woman, or child. If they're not up to the standard of AFL football, they shouldn't be umpiring no matter what. No, and there's been I think they added the 4th umpire, not thinking about the I don't know what the word would be. The quality of umpiring. They added an extra umpire, but obviously, but they didn't have the same quality. And I think there were a few games throughout the year where, because there was a 4th umpire, umpires were looking at each other around the ground because they didn't know which one to pay it. Yeah. And then there were times where umpires would make a decision, but it was way too late. Well, not way too late. They would still make it, but obviously everyone around the ground, the crowd, the people, the spectators were like, what was that paid for? You took an extra 3 seconds when the ball's down the other side of the ground. And because of the rule, the umpire, if an out of play umpire makes a call, it has to come back. When teams have had advantage, and obviously one of the big ones would have been from the grand final when Brisbane obviously should not have been pinned advantage, and then that technically could have cost them a goal. Yeah, I'm not saying. Look, I'm not going to say that cancelled out Brisbane potentially winning it. I think that the 2016 grand final was a lot worse, but anyway. What were you going to say? Sorry, I kept
it's just you get the people that 100 meters away call the free kick. You can't tell me that they can see it. Yeah. You can't tell me with the extra umpire that they think they needed. The guy that's 100 meters away.
Well, if it was that obvious from 100 metres away, surely the guy who's 5 metres away standing, controlling the play should be able to see this.
Exactly. And I hate the excuse that the commentary always gives. It's he didn't have the right angle to it. You have 4 dickheads on the field.
If you need more angles, get the people on the boundary to help you call the free kick. I don't know why they've never been able to be honest. Yeah. I mean, if you think about the NFL, they have less umpires, but they also have them running the perimeter. And we've been watching the NFL. You probably know if you've been watching the podcast for a bit. But the amount of replays they make and calls... I know, look, it wouldn't work for the AFL if they stopped every single time there was a big play. That wouldn't work, and I would hate it. But the amount of camera angles they have on a specific play is just amazing. And it's so much better than the AFL's grainy vision.
I don't know what the AFL see. Like, they see... We're back in the fucking 80s with the bloody technology, I think. The amount of blurry vision you get, and then you look at, like, the NFL, you look at the VAR... It's
even the VAR, the VAR in Australia, like the A-League, and not like the A-League's obviously a lot lower in popularity here than the AFL is. But for Christ's sakes, our webcam that we're filming in the podcast on and videos is probably just as good, if not just a little bit better than what they have. Like, they have cameras all around the ground. They have these cameras as well because you see them capture things like suspensions for players when they get hit off the ball. Yeah. So why can't we have extra cameras around the ground to capture game-breaking moments? For example, the Ben Keys situation. Yeah. I'm a fucking Swans fan, and I'm the one who keeps on bringing up the Ben Keys situation. So, it's just an absolute joke.
It's like with the technology, like with the elimination final with Carlton and Sydney, with how Blake Acres... You can't tell me that was obvious that he touched it. Like, with the technology, it looked like he touched it, yes, but the grainy effort that the camera angles gave, like, come on, seriously. Yeah. Like, it's just pathetic, and the whole situation with the umpiring, technology, all that sort of all those departments, it's been crap for the past, I think, since before COVID. I think before 2020. Yeah. But I think it's been crap.
Well, the AFL is in the best spot it's been for a very long time, probably ever, really, because we've seen the members, like, the attendances have been the highest it's ever been, membership's been the highest it's ever been. In the next year or so, they need to invest on... like umpire development, but also the technology. Yeah. That is an absolute must. And for the fact that the biggest headline we've seen so far about umpiring next year is that there's no female umpire, give me a break. Yeah. We need a lot more than... Like, honestly, if they chuck out 100 women as the fucking umpires and they are better than the ones we have now, I don't give a fuck. Yeah. As long as as long as the game is officiated the way it should be.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't care. I think that was just a joke. But anyway, sorry, we could ramble over this all day, honestly, because there's a lot of umpiring issues in the game right now. But just before we move on and get to our world sport talk, now, I don't know if you see what I just had on my phone?
No.
Okay, good. All right, so now this is AFL related, all right, so this will count. Now, you obviously, you probably hear about AFL players, especially ones getting towards the end of their career, they have like different businesses and stuff. Some of them open cafes, some of them open restaurants. I think Mark Rasciuto, for example, he owns one of the big hotels here in South Australia. Anyway, you obviously know who Warrick Capper is, don't you? Yeah. Now, in the business world, he's not the best businessman in the world. That's what he's been talked about anyway. But recently on 7 News in Adelaide, he has embarked in a brand new project. He's just got the license for a brothel in South Australia.
What?
Yeah, he just bought a brothel. So we'll play this on now. You probably don't have to see it because there's nothing anyway. But yeah, this is just some report from 7 Adelaide. Sorry.
Footy's ultimate high flyer, the newest recruit into the world's oldest profession. Warrick Capper revealing he's now the owner of Westminster Secrets, a brothel based in Oakley.
Now, do you think AFL players are going to get a discount? I was going to just ask, what player do you think is going to be first? Now, I think this is in South Australia. I'm assuming it's in South Australia. I think Oakley's somewhere in South Australia. Yeah. Now, who do you think will go first? I think Jordan Agoe is going to get a first, like a pass. Like he'll come.
Well, I think Gather Round's going to be more than just AFL. I think this is next season.
Yeah, I think Gather Round's definitely the option. I think there's a lot of teams won't be even coming for Adelaide for the sites. They're just going to be coming down here for the Warrick Capper's new brothel. Now, that's basically the news I wanted to talk about. But one of the things as well that Warrick Capper has mentioned as well, which I thought was hilarious, which is he's going to be there once a month to hold a barbecue for all the patrons of the whorehouse, basically. So every single guy that has a suck and fuck job there, he's gonna get a fucking free sausage. That was one of his major selling points. Once a month, guys, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to be having a sausage sizzle with all of yous. Like, imagine the fucking scenes there with all these people. Shit. So, yeah, that's basically the news we wanted to talk about there, guys. It's basically all the AFL news we have. But, yeah, if you guys are in Oakley, South Australia, make sure to give Warrick Capper a big shout out because that was hilarious. I saw that news and I was pissing myself.
That's good.
I was pissing myself. But anyway, let's move into some world sport. Now, obviously, the big one here for Australia was the fact that Australia in the cricket won ODI World Cup, obviously won. Yes. Which was an absolute shock because we weren't very good at the start of the tournament. We scraped into the last four and we've beaten the previously undefeated India on their home deck.
Yeah, but got to give it to the South Australian Travis Head. I think it was all him.
Well, it was all him.
Yeah, it was all him. It was all him. He had the broken hand at the beginning of the tournament, and the selectors, Andrew McDonald and George Bailey, could have just said, "Nah, we won't need him. There's no point. He's going to miss most of the tournament." But they kept their faith and they let him play, and he recovered and he never missed a beat, really. Yeah, especially in that final.
Well, I mean, we had a couple of big performances throughout the World Cup. Obviously, Travis Head in the final. We obviously had Glenn Maxwell had a world record run chase against Afghanistan. Hit over 200 runs. Yeah. It was kind of an Australian way to win it as well. Kind of underdogs. Yeah. Kind of counted out. We kind of just somehow pulled that off. I saw the news come up and I was shocked that we won it to begin with. But Travis Head making a massive performance, and we haven't really seen a lot of South Australians do that well, really, for Australian cricket.
Especially
for a while.
A long while.
I guess Jason Gillespie probably the last one we've seen that was really like top of his class. Would he be? I don't think there'd be one like after that since Travis Head, and it took Travis Head so long to get into the team too. Yeah. So it shows that maybe South Australia isn't really seen much as a cricketing side. I mean, to be honest, the South Australian cricket isn't that good. Like, our Redbacks don't do very well. No. I think we were the only Shield side to ever lose at home in a Shield final. So that's always good to know. Not that I really follow the Redbacks too much, but I think it was just amazing to see us win. We beat South Africa pretty well. We were kind of underdogs in that game. Yeah. We were able to somehow beat India. I still can't believe we beat them, considering they were undefeated throughout the whole tournament.
I think what screwed them was that having the big supporter base, I think, was so much pressure on them. It was at home. They hadn't lost the match. There was so much pressure on India, and I think it got to them in the end.
Yeah, well, did you see some of the crowd? Like, especially when we were taking it as well, the crowd went so quiet. Yeah. And they were when they were scoring well, they were just everywhere. You could see the flags were flying, the horns, whatever they use, were. Yeah.
I think Matthew Hayden was saying it during the commentary through the whole night that you don't see this very often in India. The crowd goes silent.
Yeah, and to be fair, they don't lose very often.
Yeah, and they don't lose at home. They don't lose a lot at home, so it was a huge shock.
Yeah, I don't think many people would have seen Australia winning that from the beginning. So for them to take it out was absolutely amazing and really good job. And I think now they come back for the Australian summer now.
They've got a T20 series against India as still in India for the next couple of weeks, so no one will show up for that. But and Australia won't give a shit about it either. So
yeah, well, they're probably still on the beers.
There's been videos of Travis Head on his Instagram and all that, with all the other players like Mitch Marsh and all that with him. Like, if he plays in that first T20 game, Travis Head, it'll be a miracle because the amount of celebrations that he's had.
Yeah. So, moving on from cricket, we'll move into a bit of soccer news, and then we'll get into our NFL chat to end the podcast. Now, first, probably the big story as well was the fact that Everton have been deducted 10 points from their league points, which, surprised a lot of people. They have appealed it, so we'll put that out there first off. But at this stage, Everton are going to be deducted 10 points, which would put them second last, I believe, on the Premier League table.
Yeah. Well, I think it's bullshit. I'm a Liverpool supporter, so I hate Everton, but they had one breach. I know what you're going to bring up. And Manchester City had more than 100, and they didn't get anything. Yeah, but Everton get one breach.
They haven't been convicted yet.
But one breach, come on, seriously. Like, it's just bullshit in my opinion. That Everton, they get one breach, they get a 10-point deduction. City get 100, or I think it's like 100 or something. It might be only like 50 or something, but like, come on, they get.
I'll be very well. Yeah, there's another team in a minute that we're going to talk about. But yeah, at the moment, because of that 10-point deduction, Everton, are currently 19th, equal bottom with Burnley on 4 points. Now, Everton are a bit lucky because this happened quite well now. Before the first third of the season, basically. And they are 2 points away from safety. Now, their goal difference is only -3, so that also helps them. So, at this stage, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
And even if they don't get their 10 points back, which, look, at the end of the day, I think they will. I think they'll appeal it and they'll be fine. That's my opinion. At this stage, they've lost it, so we have to take it on value that they've lost 10 points. I still think they'll be fine because at the moment, Burnley, Sheffield United, and Luton Town, honestly, I don't see them doing much else this season.
No, I don't either.
We do have the January transfer window coming up, obviously, so they could be picking up a few players, those three bottom teams. But at this stage, I think Everton will be fine.
Yeah, I think they will be.
I think if they did lose 12 points, that would be a little bit interesting because that would be. I mean, there'd be two.
Or lose all of their points, but yeah, they didn't.
Yeah, so they only lost 10. Now, obviously, 12 doesn't seem like that much of a difference, but when you're in a relegation battle, 2 points can mean a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Everton will be okay because they have kind of hit their form now, which they haven't hit for basically a couple of seasons. Yeah. So, for their sake, hopefully they do bounce back a bit. But the other team that I wanted to talk about, not Manchester City, is Chelsea. It does seem that they are in a chance to face a point deduction with some alleged secret payments. It does say here, Chelsea could be forced to a point deduction in the Premier League after leaked files were revealed of a series of illegal payments during Roman Abramovich's tenure as club owner. Fucking hell. Did I just get that so wrong or what? Anyway, these payments, according to The Guardian, may be in breach of financial fair play rules, with the funds being routed through offshore vehicles belonging to the former owner of Chelsea. So, they haven't given an exact amount of points that Chelsea would lose. But let's say it's 10, because, I mean, that's what we're going off of at the moment. 10 points right now would hit Chelsea to, I think, 6 points on their list. Let me just have a quick check. But at the moment, yeah, Chelsea right now are on 16. They would lose, if they lost 10 points, they would be 6 points, and they would be in 16th spot. Now, again, like Everton, I don't think that would really worry them too much. But again, losing that many points is a lot. Like, Everton are very lucky that they hit some form too, because if they didn't, they would be bloody. I don't think they would have deducted them to make a minus points. I think they would have just made them 0 if they were any lower than what they are. But yeah, I think. Do you think Chelsea have a chance of losing points here? Because it does seem maybe they do take a little bit more favouritism to the higher clubs. Yeah, so I think maybe Chelsea could be okay.
Yeah, I think Chelsea will be okay. I don't think they'll do it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting that they don't really punish these bigger clubs, and obviously that is very unfair. I'm not going to say it's not, but I mean, I do somewhat barrack for Chelsea, so I kind of hope they don't. But if they have breached these sort of rules, I mean, they deserve it. But I think they have to make it that everyone, if someone's going to break the rules, for example, like Everton did, then they have to, if Manchester City are found guilty, then they have to lose points.
Yeah.
Same as Chelsea, same as any other club in the Premier League or around the world. Now, obviously, FIFA, the organisation of soccer, the world soccer, is very corrupt. We've seen that very times. I think I even said it last week when we were talking about the Everton situation, when we said we didn't think they were going to lose points.
Yeah.
So, we're not always right, but we're not going to claim to be either. Like Tom Morris, yes! We got it in again. Anyway, to finish out today's podcast, we will move into some NFL chat.
So we're not going to talk about the qualifiers?
The Australian qualifiers. I honestly didn't watch them.
I did.
Right, yeah. Well, you can talk about it.
So apparently Australia in the World Cup qualifiers, they demolished Bangladesh 7-0.
Guys, breaking news, we beat Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Did you even know they owned a soccer ball over there?
Well, then we actually had a contest last night with against Palestine. We only won 1-0, but I think it was only Harry Suter that was the only reason we won, really.
Is he still at Leicester?
Yeah. Okay. So he's not even getting game time there. So I think he...
Oh, so he'll be back in the A-League next season.
Yeah, well. Yeah, so it'll be interesting, but... Yeah, it was good to see Australia. We're on top now, so obviously we're...
We should be fine to qualify anyway.
Well, yeah, so
we'll play the new rules.
I think it was Lebanon. I think it's those 3 teams. We play them twice, and then then we go into the third round, and then that decides it.
Okay.
If we finish in the top, I think 3.
Because New Zealand aren't a part of the...
they're Australasian.
Yeah, they're Australasian, which get, I think, 1 or 2 teams qualify.
I think they get...
New Zealand always finish top of them, but they've always had half a qualification, so they get like a playoff game.
Yeah.
So New Zealand are expected to be in the next World Cup, which I think is good, but at the end of the day, they're not that good at a World Cup team.
Yeah.
They've got a couple of players outside of the A-League, but not a lot. A lot of their international team is made up of like A-League, Wellington Phoenix players.
There's a lot of players in the American leagues, the MLS.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Oh, there are a few in Germany, I think, as well.
Yeah, in Germany,
Lower German league, like the Bundesliga B grade 2, I think it's called. So, yeah, there are a few, but not a lot. Not to say that Australia have a lot either, but anyway.
Any good ones anyway.
Anyway. But finally, guys, we will move to the NFL chat.
Yeah.
And I did want to talk a little bit about one game before we get to the game of the season. Well, it wasn't really... I don't know if it would be game of the season, but it was the matchup of the season so far. What game was it? It was... Christ, I just watched the highlights of it too. Alright. Well, look, we'll talk about that game first, and then I'll find it. So, obviously, the Eagles versus the Chiefs was basically the matchup of the season so far. 1v2, basically. Both number 1 of the NFC and the AFC.
It lived up to the hype.
It did live up. It was a very good game. I don't know if I would say it's the best game of the year so far, but I definitely think it'd be up there. But if the Chiefs took a couple of their chances late, they would have won this game.
In the end,
it was because of Taylor Swift, let's be honest.
She wasn't there. She wasn't there. She's, I think, in Argentina or something. I don't know. But seriously, since she's went on tour, Travis Kelce's been shit.
It's her fault, really. I think.
Yeah,
but
on a serious note, Valdez-Scantling should have took that catch late in the game. I think it was
running
like
back
2 and I think like 2 and 10. If Patty Mahomes throws it long, he's in the end zone. He's pretty much in the end zone.
He would have fallen into it.
He fell into it, and it was like. I think they said he's the worst worst catcher in the game at the moment as a wide receiver.
Oh, so like the most missed catches.
Yeah. Well, the Chiefs are the worst. They've dropped the most catches out of anyone in this.
Well, to be fair, when they are the most, they'd be one of the most passing teams.
Exactly. So that helps. That probably would. Yeah, that's why they've got such a bad thing. But
a lot of people are talking about that catch as well. But the next play, Mahomes makes a pass. Not the next play.
It was the last play.
Yeah, it was the last play.
It ended up being the last play.
Yeah, it would have been the last play. Because they went 3 and 10. He went to throw, and then he got sacked, and they were like 4 and 100, 4 and 25, and I remember 4th and 25. And Mahomes had space. They gave him so much space to the Eagles. He threw a pass that would have been the line of scrimmage.
I think it's Watson.
Yeah, I think it was Watson, or I thought it was Kelsey.
No, it was Watson.
Yeah, he had his hands. He had 2 hands free at the ball and went straight through him.
Yeah, no Eagles defender on him, and to be honest, I couldn't believe that. But he just
two absolute sitters. So I mean, and that was the first time that Jason Kelsey got a win over Travis Kelsey as well.
Yeah,
so I mean, that's good for him. Obviously, he would have liked it last year in the Super Bowl. But anyway, it was a great game, and it was a great win for the Eagles, who are now 9-1, and I mean, they've got to be favourites.
Yeah, you got to give them the favourites. It's a win at Arrowhead, and
after kind of a bit lucky, but you got to give it to them. I mean, considering last year in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs got very lucky.
Yeah.
Also,
in that game, the Eagles, AJ Brown didn't play. It was hardly cited in that game. It was all about DeAndre Smith. That pretty much he got all the yards for the Eagles. So it was good to see as an Eagles fan, if you're an Eagles fan, to see AJ Brown not play his best game, and they still win.
Yeah, well, just looking here, AJ Brown only made 1 catch the whole game for 8 yards, and you're thinking of Smith. He made 99 yards, average of 16 per carry.
Yeah.
And he took 6 catches as well, so that was massive for him. The game that I did want to talk about before you get on to what you were going to quickly cite was the Seahawks-Rams game. Now, this was a massive finish as well. Seahawks, one of the top teams this season as well. They were 6-3 before this game. The Rams were 3-6. They had a big chance here, the Seahawks, to steal this one. They could not shut it down at the end of the game, and yeah, it was a pretty surprising end to it because the Rams were able to hold on. There was a kick for the Seahawks to take the lead, and he missed a sitter. I think it was only for about 25 to 30 yards. And he missed a pretty simple field goal. He wouldn't have been too impressed by it. I can't remember who the kicker was. I'll find his name in a sec. Where's the kicker? Where's the kicking stat? I don't have the kicker though. I'll punt. No. Kick-off. No. Kick. Field goals. There it is. Myers. Yeah, he had 3 from 4. He had a long kick earlier in the game, I think of 52 or 54 yards. And yeah, he missed one for about 25. It was a terrible miss. Yeah, he would have won the... I don't know if he would have won the game. I think it was a few minutes to go, but the Rams were able to run down the clock. Yeah, there was a minute and a half to go. Seahawks had the kick, and he missed, and they had no timeouts left, so that's why. So they would have had the lead if he kicked it. He missed, and the Rams were able to run down the clock.
Yeah.
So that was the game, I think. Don't quote me on that. I do remember it was a missed kick, but yeah, the Rams won that one, give themselves a slight chance going back into the table now. But you obviously have the results of the rest of the games.
Yeah. So what? Baltimore and Cincinnati. That was Baltimore going back. I think they lead now. They lead the AFC now. Baltimore because of the Chiefs loss. So that's a good win for them. Burrow obviously getting injured doesn't help the Bengals now, but they've got a tough run, the Bengals, to finish the season.
Yeah, and they're currently bottom of their conference as well, and so they've got a pretty tough one as well.
Yeah, so that was the Detroit Lions. They came back from I think it was like half time with such a huge deficit to win their game against the Bears. Cowboys look too good at the moment. They look too good.
They're just unlucky that they're in the same division as the Eagles because they'd be flying as well.
And they never play well against the 49ers, so
yeah, when
they play them, obviously. But who was it? The Bills got back on the winners list against the Jets. Who was the other game? Well, somehow the Giants flogged the Washington Commanders, which is another good win. And CJ Stroud wins again for Houston.
Yeah, well, he's done good for them this season as well. He won it against the Falcons as well. And they had the bye, luckily for us, so I didn't have a very bad week. I looked at the scores and I'm like, oh fuck, what happened to the Falcons this week? And then I realised they had the bye, so I was like, thank God. But to be fair, the Falcons are still in the hunt.
They're in the hunt.
The problem is, though, they're 1-4. The funny thing is, with the Buccaneers and the Falcons, and I mean the Saints, to be fair, none of these 3 teams want to make playoffs. The Saints are currently 2 from their past 5 games. The Falcons and the Buccaneers are both 1 from their past 5 games. Yeah. So, it's going to be really interesting. It's really unfair as well, to an extent, because there are quite a few divisions in the NFC that are really hard fought. You look at the Packers; they're doing pretty well. They're 4-6 in third in their division. You got the Rams who are 4-6 as well. The Commanders who are 4-7. But then there's the NFC South, and the top team is 5-5, and then obviously 4-6 are both the Falcons and the Buccaneers. So I guess that's how the playoffs work in the NFL. So you can't really complain about it. At this stage, leading the NFC in first seed is the Eagles. Then we have the Lions, 49ers, and the Saints are the top 4 who are automatically qualifying for the playoffs at this stage. And then for the wildcard spots, we've got the Cowboys, the Seahawks, and the Vikings. Next team after that with a 4-way lock-up is Packers, Rams, Falcons, and the Buccaneers, all locked up at 4-6 at this stage and are in the hunt to make playoffs. You've got the playoff side for the AFC there as well.
Yeah, so first seeds are obviously of each conference is Baltimore, who lead the division.
Now with the Chiefs loss.
Yeah, now the Chiefs lost. The Chiefs are in second, the Jaguars in third, then the Miami Dolphins in fourth. Then on the other side is obviously the Bears. No, sorry, not the Bears.
That's the Browns.
The Browns, sorry. Houston and Pittsburgh. And in the hunt at the moment is the Bills, the Colts, the Broncos.
Which is a surprise. The Broncos just came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think I said this last week that the Broncos have since that game that they lost 70-20 to the Miami.
Yeah.
They've actually played pretty well.
Yeah.
And then the last I think is
that's the Bengals.
Yeah, the Bengals.
So yeah, that's basically the lock-up for this podcast, guys. Got your NFL chat done, got all that AFL talk, which was good to see. Pretty long podcast as well. I've actually noticed that the podcast in the off season have been quite long, but I actually do enjoy talking our sport for about an hour or so. If you guys are enjoying the podcast, make sure to leave it 5 stars over on Spotify, leave it a like on YouTube, make sure to subscribe or follow on either channel. And obviously, as we mentioned last week, we have started a Patreon, which we are dropping episodes early of this podcast, the new Twitters podcast as well, which would be, if you guys check the community tab right now, you would have the new episode of that up right now. Episode 2, which I thought was quite funny. We talk about the vag beer, which is very funny. Cool. We'll be making our 4th episode right now of the Twitters podcast, just after we record this one. So if you join the Patreon right now, there is a 3rd episode up, so you can watch that, and you'll also have the 4th one, well, pretty much as we upload this as well. So 2 episodes of that, the Boundary Riders podcast. If you join now, you'd basically be getting the next one early. Not basically a day or 2. So if you do want to support us as well, but obviously that's completely up to you. But yeah, thanks for watching today's episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, episode 38. I think I said from the start. Yeah, you've got me covered. All good. Thanks for watching, guys. But we will catch you all next time.
See you later, guys.